Hi everyone, John from LookSmart Home Inspections right here in New Jersey. And I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about weather and how the weather can affect positively or negatively your home inspection. Now, one weather event is really good in my opinion for home inspections. And clients sometimes don't really understand this. And I think it's very important for you guys who are thinking about buying homes is to understand that rain is your friend when you do a home inspection, right? Rain is your friend. And I had a client the other day call me day before the home inspection, and he asked me, are we still on because we're going to experience heavy rain, during the early morning times when the home inspection takes place. And I said, it's your lucky day. We are definitely able to do your home inspection in the rain, and in fact, it's beneficial for you in so many ways. And I went on and I tried to describe to them or him about, why that is actually. Why is it important? Why is it a great benefit if we do a home inspection in the rain? And I said, maybe it's important that I make a short video describing the benefits of doing an inspection in the rain. And, that's what I'm going to do right now. So why is it so darn good when it rains? And I'm not talking about a little drizzle rain. I'm talking about a decent heavy rain on home inspection day is so much to your benefit. And one of the things that we can really look at when we look at the ground and the grade around the exterior of the house during, nice weather, any type of weather. But when it's raining a lot, we can really see how that ground around the outside of the house is dealing with those gallons and gallons of water. And that's really important because obviously, and I've harped on this many times, is that we want the soil around the home to be free draining. We want the water that is going to collect close to the home to be directed away from all of those exterior walls. And so we really want to check around the outside of the home if it is raining for these types of things. We want our soil to drain properly. So if it just started to rain and then we see the backyard is a mini swamp and that soil's not draining, that gives us some clues as to what could be going on inside the home, right? Or actually on the outside of the home. So we could have clay soil, which is heavily compacted soil, and that doesn't really drain as readily as soil with a lot of air incorporated in it. That clay soil tends to be very dense. And so you want to know if you're buying a home that's constructed on a lot of clay soil, because that is an expansive type of soil and can lead to, if not properly directed away from the foundation, damages to the foundation over time, and probably some areas of water seepage or water infiltration in your basement. So one of the things that rain really does, and heavy rain, is gives your home inspector and yourself the ability to really examine the outside of the home, around the house, and the grade, and to determine if there are any areas of concern. Now, it's true that most homes are going to need some attention as far as the exterior grading. I mean, let's face it, people don't spend a lot of time maintaining the outside ground or grade. That's why we find so many basement water infiltration problems and foundational problems. But having it rain on home inspection day gives us such an advantage because we can actually see those areas actually working. Are they working properly? Are they directing water away from the home, or are they not? Is water retaining close to the home? And are there pockets of water collecting around the outside of the home that's going to make the home, basement, crawl space more vulnerable to water infiltration problems? Now, along with that exterior grading, your home inspector is going to be able to take a look at your downspouts and water control systems to determine if they're working properly. And really, we can only really do this during periods of heavy rain. And when it's raining, we can actually see the downspouts working fine. And we can see that the gutters and the downspouts are working well to direct that water away from the foundation wall. If it's dry, if it's a beautiful day in June and there's no rain, we can look for certain things for the gutters and the downspouts for sure. But if it's really raining, we're going to be able to really examine those properly. Are the gutters pitched in a way that's successful, and that's going to direct water to the downspouts and away from the home? Are the gutters clogged or obstructed? Are there any areas of leaking gutters, right? A lot of times we'll see these gutters overflowing or leaking because they haven't been maintained in years and they're full of debris and things like that. But we can usually find those issues during a home inspection, but it's so much easier to find these gutter problems during periods of heavy rain. So actually, you should really be hoping that it rains on your home inspection day. Even if it's not raining during your home inspection, it's always advantageous to visit the house during that due diligence period. So you generally would have about a month to close on the home. And your inspection contingency is probably 10 or 14 days. But if you live locally, maybe talk to the seller after it rains. It's got to rain significantly or substantially, and visit the house after it rains, because that will tell you a lot about how the outside water controls and grading are going to be. And even better, if you could peek your head in your basement or crawl space, that's even another measure of protection. Now, basements leak at odd times, and sometimes the conditions have to be specific. So just because you visit the home and there's no water in the basement and it's dry, or the crawl space is dry at that time, it certainly doesn't mean that it's going to be dry all the time. But it does give you at least another measure of protection and may provide another layer of peace of mind for you. So really consider it. If you're going to buy a home and you're spending all this money, try to visit the home during a period of wet weather, just to see how things are working. So this customer who was unsure of doing the home inspection in the rain, and this is something that's 100% true to fact. We went up to the attic and we saw 2 water leaks, active water leaks. I felt it with my hand, and also a moisture meter in both areas, actively leaking roof. And the roof really isn't that old. It's only about maybe 12 to 15 years old. So it's not a super old roof. But a lot of times we'll find water leaks around the penetrations of the house, especially the chimney, where the flashing is failing, and maybe 90% of the time chimney flashings are not installed correctly. A lot of times they're missing pieces of the flashing. They've been improperly sealed to the chimney and not cut into the chimney, and they lack a counter flashing. Like, there's a myriad of problems that we find with chimney flashings. But it's always good to see when it rains is to look around that chimney, feel around it, because a lot of times you'll actually see active water penetration, and that's what we found the other day. And my client was very happy about that, because maybe we wouldn't have seen that on a dry day. So that's another thing, is to certainly look at these roof penetrations during wet weather. And we're talking about not only chimney penetrations, but where the attic fan penetrates the roof. The bathroom's fans sometimes penetrate the roof also, and especially on plumbing stacked vent penetrations where you have that rubber boot at the bottom. And over time, especially if it's an older roof, or if your roofing contractor cut corners and didn't replace it with a fresh one, that rubber boot is going to get brittle, and a lot of times that'll just let water in. And during heavy rain or moderate rain, as home inspectors, we'll be able to see that actively instead of just looking for the moisture around there. Instead of looking for the staining only, we'll actually be able to see wetness and leaking. So that's super important to do on any home inspection, but also really important to do when you're doing a home inspection in the wet weather, is because you can actually see that actively leaking around the chimney, the pipe penetrations, the bathroom penetrations, any penetration that goes through the roof. If you're in the attic space doing a proper inspection, you'll be able to take a look at these things. It's very important. You know, as home inspectors, one of the things that I always find problems with, a lot of the time, are skylights. And during periods of heavy rain, we're actually going to be able to inspect these skylights in a way that's going to tell us, hopefully, if there's any active water leakage. Now, that's not a catch-all, because certainly sometimes skylights leak during periods of sideways rain or wind-driven rain. And wind-driven rain is something, that's a different animal, because sometimes you will see only moisture penetration or water infiltration in a heavy wind-driven rain from one direction, believe it or not. And so, you're not going to have perfect rainy weather conditions to cover all your bases, but it's certainly always good to look during periods of rain on a home inspection or revisiting your house. And one of the things that you want to look for, certainly, is leaks around your skylights. And generally, I'm just talking about generalities. Home inspectors, we don't really love skylights because skylights are just problematic in a lot of different ways. Many times they're not installed correctly, the flashings are not installed correctly, and they'll have broken seals, and we'll see water penetration around them. But doing a home inspection on a rainy day can certainly bring this to light. And so skylights, very vulnerable area of your roof, and you certainly want to make sure that those are inspected correctly, especially if it's raining on home inspection day. You guys also want to look at, during a period of heavy rain, hopefully on your home inspection day, is to take a look at your basement interior walls, make sure that they are dry if there's a really driving heavy rain. I also want you to do that with your crawl spaces. Now, a crawl space is sometimes taboo with you guys. You guys acknowledge that the crawl space is there, but then you just kind of ignore it. You pretend it doesn't exist. Although in your mind you know it exists, but you're not really looking at your crawl spaces. And you guys really should do that. Especially if you're buying a home on a crawl space, and I said this many, many times before, that's a space where nobody really wants to go into. And because of that fact, that is likely to be where your problems exist in the home that you're thinking about, right? In the crawl space, a space that doesn't get a lot of viewage, right? A crawl space is usually very dirty, it's hard to navigate, and it's just difficult, right? So why would you want to enter the crawl space? But if you're buying a home in a crawl space, doing a home inspection on a rainy day, certainly your home inspector is going to do their best to enter that space, provided it is safe to do so. And it's super important to do this on a rainy day. And it's super important to do this on any day, for that matter, is that don't neglect your crawl space. Don't not view your crawl space. And if you're purchasing a home and you're touring the house, please, please, please look in the attic and look in the crawl space. I guarantee that there can be things that you're going to see yourself that you're not going to be aware of. And I think that's really, really important. At least you get a flavor for what those areas and conditions look like. So don't neglect those pieces. Absolutely. So that sort of gives you an idea of why it's important to not cancel your home inspection if it's going to rain. It's super important to do a home inspection in the rain because it provides you a lot more information than doing a home inspection in the dry weather. But there is a weather condition that can sort of hamper a home inspection, and thankfully we're leaving the winter months here, although it doesn't really feel like we're leaving the winter months, but we kind of are. And snow can, really hamper the ability to do the exterior piece of your home inspection, obviously, because it will cover the roof and it'll cover the chimney. Sometimes it can cover the chimney flashing. And the home inspector really wouldn't be able to take a look around the house easily and just, figure out if the grade is positive or negative and that type of thing, if the water is going to be directed effectively around the outside of the home. So snow is the thing that can kind of really hamper a home inspection. And a lot of times home inspectors, look, we understand the weather, but we don't really cancel when it's going to snow unless it's going to snow a lot, and it's a safety issue. But if it's a couple inches of snow, most likely we'll go out there and do your home inspection, because there are tons of things that we can still do. We can do the whole inside of the home, for that matter. It's just a few things on the outside that really we're not going to be able to do. And certainly we can't run the air conditioning, obviously, in the winter months. So just think about that also. I just want to kind of just talk briefly about snow and its impact on home inspections, but you shouldn't really cancel your home inspection unless it's a safety issue. If it's a couple of inches of snow, your home inspector is most likely able to get out there and do your home inspection. Talk to him or her about their approach to dealing with this kind of problem. Some home inspectors will return to the home, maybe when they pick up the radon test to view the roof. We're really understandable people, and we generally really want to help our clients. So we're not there to leave you in the lurch, and generally we can work something out where we can return to the home, in most cases anyway. Guys, I just really want to thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Hopefully somebody found this helpful in terms of, should I do a home inspection in the wet weather? The answer is yes, absolutely you should. And I'm John from LookSmart Home Inspections right here in New Jersey. Reach out to me if you have any questions or comments about anything. Be happy to help you with your home inspection. Be happy to help you with any questions you have regarding your home purchase or the house, that you're currently living in. So thanks very much for listening, watching, and we'll see you next time.